In the summer of 2023, the Supreme Court found itself at the center of a storm, one that echoed the historical reverberations of the Alien Enemies Act of 1798. The case before them was not just a legal question, but a profound humanitarian dilemma, as it involved the treatment of Venezuelan nationals fleeing a collapsing regime. The court's ruling would not only clarify the law, but also shape the narrative of immigration policy in an increasingly polarized society. The Alien Enemies Act, originally designed to address concerns of national security during wartime, had lain dormant for decades, a relic of a bygone era. However, with the rise of authoritarianism in Venezuela, the act was resurrected, its provisions invoked by a government eager to tighten borders and limit the influx of refugees. As the Venezuelan crisis deepened, thousands of people fled their homeland, seeking refuge in the United States. They arrived with stories of desperation, their lives uprooted by political turmoil, economic collapse, and human rights abuses. Yet, instead of welcome, they faced a legal labyrinth that threatened to classify them as enemies simply because of their nationality. The Supreme Court's deliberations were marked by impassioned arguments from both sides. Advocates for the Venezuelan refugees argued that the Alien Enemies Act, while historically significant, was outdated in the context of modern humanitarian crises. They contended that the law could not justifiably apply to individuals fleeing a regime that the United States itself had condemned. The justices listened intently as lawyers painted vivid pictures of families torn apart, children left behind, and the pervasive fear that gripped those who dared to escape. They urged the court to recognize the fundamental principles of asylum and refuge that had long been a cornerstone of American identity. On the opposing side, government attorneys invoked the need for national security, emphasizing that the Alien Enemies Act was a necessary tool for protecting the nation from potential threats. They argued that the act was not inherently discriminatory. Rather, it was a precautionary measure in an age where geopolitical tensions were fraught with uncertainty. The justices, aware of the historical implications of their decision, grappled with the balance of security and compassion, a tightrope that had defined American immigration policy for generations. As the court prepared to announce its decision, the societal reactions began to take shape. Advocacy groups rallied in the streets, some holding vigils for those whose lives hung in the balance. Social media buzzed with hashtags calling for justice and compassion. The narrative around immigration was shifting, with many Americans beginning to view the plight of Venezuelans not just as a legal issue, but as a moral one. The stories of individuals who had risked everything to escape oppression resonated deeply, challenging the prevailing narratives of fear and division. When the ruling finally came down, it was met with a mix of relief and frustration. The Supreme Court decided to limit the application of the Alien Enemies Act in cases involving Venezuelan refugees, establishing that those fleeing political persecution could not be treated as enemies of the state. The implications of this ruling rippled through immigration policy, prompting a reevaluation of how the United States would respond to future crises. It opened the door for a more nuanced understanding of asylum, one that recognized the complexities of modern geopolitical realities. Yet, the decision was not without its detractors. Critics argued that it did not go far enough, that the ruling still left too many vulnerable individuals at the mercy of a system that could easily revert to exclusionary practices. The societal discourse continued, fueled by the stories of those affected by the ruling. For many Venezuelans, the Supreme Court's decision was a beacon of hope, but also a reminder of the precariousness of their situation. They understood that while the ruling represented a step forward, the fight for dignity and safety was far from over, and the legacy of the Alien Enemies Act would continue to cast a long shadow over the American immigration landscape.